Trailblazers. I'm Miss Nancy, and we are in God's beautiful mountains, and we're looking today to talk about Daniel. Daniel in chapter 6 talks about Daniel in the lion's den, and I know you know this story, but we're going to put a little twist on it. We're going to talk about the faithfulness of Daniel, the courage that Daniel had. He had wisdom because he was very smart. As a matter of fact, he was one of those people who was taken as a slave from Jerusalem to Babylon by King Nebuchadnezzar when he was a young man. And he had grown up in Babylon, learned lots about many things there. And he was so well trusted by King Nebuchadnezzar that Nebuchadnezzar made him one of the officials there in the government. But there were other officials who did not like Daniel because they were jealous. But Daniel was very faithful to God the whole time he was there. As a matter of fact, 3 times every day, he would go to his window in his house that faced Jerusalem, and he would pray to God and talk to God about everything in his life. But he wanted to do it because he wanted to remember Jerusalem, and that's why he prayed from that window. Well, the fellas who were jealous of him wanted to get rid of him, and they knew the only way they could get rid of him was to do something related to his religion. And so what they did was they said, maybe if we talk King Nebuchadnezzar into having a law that would say for 30 days you cannot pray to anybody but Nebuchadnezzar. And that king then would then be like a god. Well, King Nebuchadnezzar thought that was a great idea. And of course, once he signed the law, he couldn't change it. So when the law was signed, and even though Daniel knew all about it, he went home to his house, he opened that window towards Jerusalem, and he prayed to God just like he did every day. He had the courage to be himself. He had the courage to do exactly what he knew God would want him to do, and he was faithful to God. Well, you could imagine that these fellas who were jealous were excited because now they could arrest Daniel for doing the wrong thing, and they could take him to Nebuchadnezzar, and he could be thrown in the lion's den, and the lions would eat him up. But that's not what happened, because when Daniel was put into the lion's den, an angel was sent by God to shut the mouths of those lions so they would not eat Daniel. And he spent all night with them, and they didn't touch him. The next morning, King Nebuchadnezzar was concerned because he really liked Daniel and he didn't want something bad to happen to Daniel. However, it turns out that when he found out that everything was okay with Daniel, he was so glad because he didn't want something bad to happen. Daniel was very courageous, wasn't he? And he was faithful. And you know what? That's why today our big idea is be faithful to God, because he could give you courage and wisdom even in tough times. Well, that's all for today, Trailblazers. It's good to see you. I hope to see you next week. I hope your week is one of the best ever. So do like we always say, go be the church.